When young Sheldon wrapped up its 7th season, fans believed they were saying goodbye to the Coopers forever. But with the surprise success and greenlighting of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, the universe has cracked back open, this time through the lens of Sheldon's older brother and his partner-turned-wife, Mandy McAllister. While the new spin-off primarily explores their young marriage, parenthood, and a life shaped by struggle and Southern charm, Season 2 is already planting seeds for deeper narrative arcs. Chief among them, the highly anticipated return of George Cooper SR.'s mysterious arch-nemesis. Yes, you read that right. The young Sheldon universe has never delved too deeply into George's past conflicts, but longtime viewers will recall subtle nods to a tension that existed outside the home, a man who was more than a rival, a ghost of the past. And now, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is preparing to bring him back. The setup, A Flash from the Past. Season 2, Episode 3, titled Bad Business and Burgers with a Side of Revenge, might seem like a typical Comedy of Errors episode on the surface. Georgie tries to expand his tire shop into food services, don't ask, and Mandy struggles to keep June from swallowing a Lego. But midway through the episode, a quiet moment shifts the tone. While cleaning out old boxes from George S.R.'s toolshed, Georgie finds a rusted trophy plaque. The inscription: Midland Football League 1983, Coach of the Year, G. Cooper. But just beneath it is a crude engraving, scratched in what looks like a pocket knife. Should have been me, DK. Georgie brushes it off at first, but later, while recounting the story to Mandy's father Jim, played with new layers of grumpiness by Will Sasso, he hears something chilling. You know who that was, right? Dwight Kirby. Your daddy couldn't stand that man. Boom. And just like that, a name long whispered in the halls of young Sheldon lore returns. Dwight Kirby, George Cooper SR.'s nemesis. Who was Dwight Kirby? Although Dwight never appeared on screen in young Sheldon, he was mentioned once, offhandedly, in Season 5 by George during a garage conversation with Meemaw. He muttered something like, "At least I'm not Dwight Kirby." It was a throwaway line, until now. According to scraps of fan lore and writers, interviews over the years, Dwight was a rival football coach from a neighboring Texas town. Back in the early 80s, George and Dwight were locked in a fierce rivalry over coaching prestige, community reputation, and even school funding. But it wasn't just professional. Rumors have long suggested that Dwight once pursued Mary Cooper before she and George got married. There are even whispers that Mary and Dwight went on a few dates during a brief breakup with George, a theory that might finally get addressed in this new spin-off, as the show begins peeling back layers of George S.R.'s personal life through his family's memories. How Season 2 builds toward Dwight's return. What makes Georgie and Mandy's first marriage surprisingly rich is its willingness to go beyond the surface of domestic sitcom life. Season 1 established the tone. Yes, it's funny, but there's depth. Georgie is trying to prove himself as a father and husband while still haunted by the shadows of his own dad. Season 2 is leaning harder into that emotional lineage. The discovery of the trophy and the mention of Dwight is more than a nod. It's a narrative ticking time bomb. In Episode 5, Georgie visits his mother, Mary, now more deeply involved in church outreach, and asks about Dwight. Her reaction is telling, a pause, a sigh, and a distant look. Some people never forgive and some never forget. Your father knew both types. Dwight was both. It's not long before Georgie is on a mission to track Dwight down, not out of curiosity, but because he learns that Dwight may be trying to buy out the land where his tire shop sits. That's right. After decades, Dwight Kirby is coming for the next generation of Coopers, casting rumors and fan theories. Of course, the big question remains, who will play Dwight Kirby? The producers have kept things quiet, but fans are swirling with speculation. A few frontrunners have emerged from the rumor mill. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, with his southern gravitas and rugged charm, would be a perfect villain with a heart. Sam Elliott, if the show wants to go full Western legend with a rivalry steeped in history. Or even Matthew McConaughey, as a stunt cast that would send shockwaves through the fandom. Regardless of who steps into the role, Dwight isn't just a one-episode guest star. According to behind-the-scenes leaks, he's set to recur throughout the back half of Season 2, culminating in a 3-episode arc titled The Last Play George Ever Called. What that means for the emotional core of the show remains to be seen, but the title alone suggests we'll get new insights into George S.R.'s final months, perhaps through the eyes of the man who hated and maybe admired him most. Why this matters to the young Sheldon legacy. What makes this setup so brilliant is that it's doing something young Sheldon rarely got to do: explore George S.R. through the people he left behind. Sheldon always saw his father as flawed. Mary saw him as loyal but imperfect. But Dwight Kirby, he might offer a third perspective, one that paints George as a hero, or perhaps as a complicated man who made enemies for reasons more personal than professional. For Georgie, facing Dwight is about more than protecting his business. It's about defending his father's name, legacy, and memory. It's about coming into his own not as Sheldon's brother, but as George's son. Final thoughts, more than a rivalry. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage could have played it safe. It could have stuck to diaper jokes and in-law tension. But instead, it's doing something remarkable, weaving emotional legacy into sitcom storytelling. The return of George's arch-nemesis adds dramatic weight, historical texture, and a new kind of emotional catharsis for fans who never really got to mourn George Cooper S.R. properly. As Season 2 builds toward its climax, one thing is clear: Dwight Kirby isn't just here for vengeance. He's here to help us understand the past, and in doing so, shape the future of the Cooper family story.